Morning everyone. Today's vlog is on the annual investment allowance, the AIA. So what is the annual investment allowance? Well, it's a form of capital allowance. Capital allowances, for those of you who don't know, is the tax authority jargon for depreciation on capital equipment. So basically when you buy things in your business like plant and machinery, fixtures and fittings, the accounting policy is that you depreciate those over several years. Could be over 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is. It's more or less your choice how long you depreciate them over in the accounts. The UK tax authorities say we don't care what you put in your accounts. We're going to just have our own prescriptive rules. So when it comes to working out your tax bill for your business, we will ignore whatever the accounts say for depreciation and instead impose our tax-specific rules on depreciation on these items. Now, thankfully, the HMRC, the UK Tax Authority rules are actually more generous than the accounting rules. So in certain circumstances, HMRC say you can have immediate tax write-off of the assets that you've purchased. Never mind having to wait for 5, 10, 15 years, you get immediate tax write-down, which is a good thing. So that actually would mean that your taxable profits are lower than your accounting profits. So on paper, you've done better than you have than you have for the tax, because the tax man lets you have these generous tax write-offs, which is good. Now, these generous tax write-offs are called capital allowances, and the most generous of all is the annual investment allowance, which is an immediate tax write-off. So, for example, let's say you spend £100,000 on a piece of kit. Let's say it's some sort of machine for your business. The rules are that you will get this annual investment allowance, which says that you can write off the entire amount against your profits for that year. So, £100,000 spent on a machine, UK tax rate, corporation tax 19%, that will save you £19,000 of tax in that year. You don't have to spread the tax relief over several years. So this annual investment allowance, now, in terms of the limits on this thing, this is yo-yoed for many, many years. It used to be £500,000 was the maximum, then it dropped to 200,000, then it was increased to £1 million. So right now, the limit is £1 million. And the government rationale for doing this was several years ago, before COVID and all the pandemic. Generally speaking, a lot of businesses in the UK, in fact, not just the UK, throughout the world, had surplus cash sat on the balance sheets. They weren't investing it in anything. There was a lot of cash accumulating in corporates worldwide. For example, in America, when Trump got in, he had that tax rate that said if you repatriate all your cash to the US, we'll charge you a low rate of tax. The likes of the tech stocks were keeping tens of billions of cash offshore. And similarly in UK, generally across the board, it was surplus cash on company balance sheets. So the Chancellor said, this annual investment allowance, we will increase the limit to £1 million. So you can spend up to £1 million on plant and machinery, kit, assets for your business, and have immediate tax write-down. So that is very generous indeed. So you spend £1 million, it'll knock £1 million off your taxable profits. Now, that £1 million limit has been in since the 1st of January 2019. It was brought in as a temporary measure for 2 years only before it goes back down to 200,000 on the 1st of January 2021. Now, it remains to be seen whether or not there's any changes to that, or if the Chancellor extends that, but as it stands right now, during the pandemic, there's been no mention of altering that, so we have to prepare for the fact that that £1 million limit will go back down to 200,000 from the 1st of January 2021. So, what you have to be careful of is if you have an accounting period that straddles the date for the change from 1 million to 200,000. So, let's say you have an accounting period, your business year end is the 31st of March. So right now you are halfway through your year ended 31st of March 2021. Let's say you've got a few quid to spare on the balance sheet. You're thinking about investing in some plant and machinery anyway, and you want to take advantage of this annual investment allowance. what is the maximum amount that you can spend to get the full relief. So the rules say that you can have 9 months worth of the £1 million limit and then 3 months worth of the £200,000 limit. So remember, the 200,000 kicks in 1st of January. So you'd calculate 9/12 times a million plus 3/12 times 200,000, which is 750 grand plus 50 grand, which gives you a new hybrid limit, if you will, of 800,000 for your accounting year ended 31st of March 2021. So you've got £800,000 that you can spend on assets in your business and get immediate tax deduction against profits. However, just a couple of caveats on that. Part of the rule also says that anything you spend after the 1st of January, when the rate drops back to 200 grand, is capped for the relief at that 50 grand that we've just talked about. So don't leave it until February or March 2021 thinking, great, I've got a surplus 800 grand in my business, I can go out and buy 800 grand's worth of machinery. No, you can't. Well, yes, you can, but you're not going to get the tax relief, because the rules say that from the 1st of January, you can't claim more than that 50 grand for that 3 months. So, practically speaking, let's say we've worked out, you've got 800 grand to play with. You can spend it all before the 31st of December, or you can spend 50,000 of it and no more from the 1st of January. So that's crucial that you plan ahead, which we're only a couple of months away from the end of December, that if you've got this requirement for capital equipment, you've got a few quid in the business to be able to afford it, to do so, make sure you get the timing right on the purchase. Don't leave it all until after the new year, because you will not get the full relief. It's only capped at 50 grand of actual, the timing of when you spend it, even though for the 12 months as a whole, the cap is 800,000. So the rule of thumb is basically you've got to get it in now before Christmas, before the end of the year to qualify. So annual investment allowance, very generous tax break, and use it now before it drops to a much lower level. Also, if you are part of a group, it is restricted. So basically, let's say you have a subsidiary, there's two businesses trading and one's a subsidiary, or both are under common control. Well, the rules say that you have to split that annual investment allowance. You can't have the million for one company and the million for the other company. You basically split it in half and divide it between the two companies, or indeed however many entities there are in the group. So if you had 4 companies in your group, then it's capped at 250 grand per company. So little things to watch out for on that. But the big thing is, if you want to take advantage of this, get most of that expenditure in before 31st of December, if indeed you were talking about these big amounts. Yes, it's a very generous relief. A lot of businesses actually will come nowhere near. A lot of SME businesses come nowhere near to spending that anyway. They may be thinking about a few thousand or a few tens of thousands, certainly nowhere near a million. But for those who can afford to take advantage of it, and there is a commercial need to buy all this stuff, then you really do need to think about the timing. Get the kit bought before 31st of December. So that's a quick overview on the annual investment allowance, part of the capital allowances group. I also have separate videos on other aspects of capital allowances for items hardwired into the building, and certain tax reliefs available on that. So please do check those out. And if you like this video, please do subscribe up here, and I will see you soon.